Good evening, everyone.
Kavod Harav, how are you?
Baruch Hashem, thank you. Okay. Yeah, so we have here in a tour, it says, כתב הרוקח, אוכל פחות מקבצה, ייטול מספק ולא יברך. So it says like this, right? If you are eating less than the size of an egg or bread, so what you got to do is wash your hands from a doubt and not bless. So why is that? Because when you're eating less than an egg size, it's not really a meal so much, it's like, very light. So therefore, it's not really sure that the rabbis decreed to wash on that. But because of the doubt, it says you should wash, but not make a blessing. Why? Why not make a blessing? Because when there's a doubt, we don't bless, right? When in doubt, throw it out, right? That's the general rule. So says Bet Yosef regarding that. Right, so he says there's a reason for this, technically, that less than egg size doesn't accept impurity. Ochalin, right? Tumat ochalin, the impurity of food. So he says, therefore, we can, perhaps say that the rabbis didn't require you to watch for that. But also, we could say possibly the other way, that maybe they just, wanted you to wash for, whatever you eat, even if it's a small amount. So they didn't differentiate between this size and that size, right? Less than an egg, more than an egg. So therefore, you should wash your hands with a doubt, from a doubt. Not bless. Umasiman Resh Pei Gimel Katav, right? It says in this chapter, which is 283, ונוטלין ידיהם וברכים על נטילת ידיים מפני שצריך לטבל טיבול שני במרור, אבל על אכילת מצה שהיה יוצא בכזית אינו צריך נטילה, זה על פחות מכזית אין צריך נטילה. So he brings here a source from a different chapter, as we said, and over there the Tur writes that if it's less than a kazite that you're eating the bread, it does not require washing at all. It's not even a doubt, So therefore, if you're eating less than a kazite of bread, what would you do? How would you do it? So what you would do is bless hamotzi, but you don't need to wash your hands. Just straight, right? Put it in your mouth. That's it. You're done. Because it's a small amount.
Rabbi, and what's the size? Again, what is the size of the bread that you said compared to?
Right. So here's the thing, right? When the rule is like this: when you eat a kazait of any food, whatever it is, whatever it may be, you have to make an after blessing as well. So if you eat a kazait of bread, you have to say birkat hamazon because that means you ate something substantial, right? It's worth something. But if it's less than a kazait, right? What is kazait? It's an olive size, right? So then, it's not really gonna give you anything. You're not gonna get any, strength, satiation from it. Not really anything substantial. So therefore, they didn't, they don't tell you to wash your hands for that. It's not a meal. It's not really anything. And also, there's the issue of tuma, right? I'm sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. I understand now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah. So that's the story there. So there's two sizes, right? We have an egg size, and we have olive size. So just to I think I've spoken about this before, but just to go back and review, right, this issue. What are these sizes, right? Let's just clarify them, right? So egg size is the size of an egg, as you would think. Right? That's what it means, right? So what does that mean? The volume that the egg, has is that volume of the bread. Now, the egg will weigh more, because it's more dense, than the bread. Because the bread has air pockets, but eggs that are full, so they don't have any air inside there. So therefore, we don't go by the weight; we go by the size, the volume. So that's regarding the egg size, right? What about an olive size? So there's a machlokat there between Rambam and Rif and Tosfot. According to Tosfot, olive size is half an egg. According to Rambam and Rif, it's 1/3 of an egg. Right. So the truth is, if you look at the sizes, right, you can pretty much see that, the Rif and the Rambam are more correct, right? Because you usually don't have an olive which is like half an egg. Usually they're not that big. It's usually 1/3 of an egg, which is more correct. And so that's the story. And by the way, the Gemara says, there's when you tell me olives, right? There's three types of olives, right? There's the large size, medium, and small. So which one are you talking about? Right? When you go to the store, right? You have the large olives and those jumbo ones, right? Then you have which looks like a golf ball, something like that, right? Even smaller than a golf ball. And then you have the you have the medium size, which is like there's a name for it, I forgot. Anyway, and you have a small size, right? Those little ones, the tiny ones. So we're talking about the mid-size one. That's what it says in the Gemara. So the truth is, right, that from there you see that Tosfot and Rambam are more correct than the I'm sorry, the Rambam and the Rif are more correct than Tosfot. But anyway, in certain cases, we go stringent like the Tosfot, just to be on the safe side, when it comes to certain issues. So we do use also the Tosfot, So what about the weight? So as we said, right, these things are volume, but the Rambam translated the volume size into a weight size. That's what he did, So therefore, today we have like a weight for all these volumes as well. So the accepted, going rate, right now at this juncture at this time in history, the egg is about 54 grams, or 50 grams. That's the weight of the egg size. And the olive size, right? The weight is according to Tosfot, it's going to be 27 grams or 25, and according to Rif and Rambam, it's going to be like 19 or something. It's only 1/3, 18, 19. So that's how it translates into weight. So the rabbis, when they decreed these decrees, they didn't go according to weight; they went according to volume. But what happened was, that later on, as we said, the Rambam translated it. So now a lot of people, use always the weights. it became like a custom, like later on, as time went along. The people always talk about the weight and not about the size, whatever. But really, it's supposed to be the same. But the truth is, usually the weight will be like larger than the volume, as a general rule. So if you go by volume, you're going to be eating less. It's a good diet if you want to go on a diet, right? So go by volume. If you want to gain weight, then go by the weight. What? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that's the way it goes, right? But the volume is what the sages decreed. The weight is just a translation, That's what it is. Okay, whatever. It's all good, some have a custom to do it this way, some custom that way. It's all good. So anyway, those are the sizes that we're talking about. So what does that mean, right? If you have an egg size of bread, then you have to wash your hands. But as we said, right, you're gonna not bless on that because it's not large enough. I'm sorry, I didn't say it right. Not less than an egg size. If you have less than an egg size, then you're not going to bless. So it's more than a kazite and less than an egg. There in that area, you're not going to bless. You're just going to wash your hands without a blessing because it's a doubt. But if you eat less than a kazite, right, which is really a small amount, so then you're not gonna even wash your hands at all because it's not significant, So the rabbi said, that kazite, when you eat a kazite, the significance of that size is that it'll hold you over for a little while, like you'll feel like some sort of like relief, from the hunger. That's why that size is significant. But if you eat less than that, you're eating like basically like a little bird, a little pigeon, or some kind of bird like that, So that's not really gonna do anything for you, unless you're a bird. So that's the way it is. Okay, very good. So let's go on. So we're going to see Shulchan Aruch here on Bet and Gimel. Right, so it says this is Aleph. Let's go to Bet. Second. It says Yesh Mishomer. There is one that says as we said, right, if you're eating less than an egg size, right? Then what you should do is, yes, wash your hands. There's a doubt, but do not bless. So, right, I've said this already probably a couple of times, but why don't we bless when there's a doubt? Just to refresh your memory, right? What's the reason for that?
We don't bless in vain.
Right. Yeah, it shouldn't be a blessing in vain. Right. Exactly. So this is the reason why we avoid that. So when you have a doubt, throw it out. No blessing, right? Okay, beautiful. So according to the Rambam, by the way, if you make a blessing in vain, you are transgressing one of the 10 commandments. Very severe, Which one of the 10 commandments are you transgressing? Do not bear the name of God in vain, it says, right? That's what we're talking about. Which is commandment number 4, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sorry, number 3. So there you go, right? That's what we're talking about. 4 is Shabbat, if I'm not mistaken, right? Commandment number 4. Number 5, what is that? Right? Honoring our father and mother. So forth and so on. Okay. Hope I remember. Okay. All right. So anyway, that's the story there. So do not bear the name of God in vain. Don't make a blessing in vain, because you have the name of God there. Okay. But according to Tosot, this prohibition is from the rabbis, not from the Torah. That's the way he holds, But we're choshesh, we're concerned about the opinion of the Rambam and the Rif, which they say that it's one of the 10 Commandments. So you got to be very careful with that. Don't play around. Make sure you're careful about that. So, any case of doubt, don't say it. Okay, so as I say, don't be a hero. Yeah, I'll say it anyway. No, don't say it. Don't do God a favor. Don't do many favors. He doesn't need your blessing in vain. Yeah. Okay, so that's the story there. So yeah, that's what we're saying. So let's go to Gimel. So it says here, im ochel pachot mikabzait, right? If you eat less than a kazait, as we said, yesh mish yomer shen tzarich netilah. You don't even have to wash, right? That's the way we do it. We don't wash. So there you go, right? That's the way we do it. So right, to recap that, if you're eating less than an egg size, you wash without a blessing. Less than a kazait, right? Don't wash at all, right? Don't waste your time. You got better things to do. Okay. Very good. Let's go to Dalid. So says here the Bet Yosef, he brings the tour here. He says, right? Also, we said, besides the bread, there's also something else we have to wash for, which is what? Something which is eaten, like being dipped into a liquid. Things like that. In other words, it's the way to eat it like that. That's the way to eat it. So if that's the case, then we do wash for that. But as we're going to see, right, we're not going to bless for that because there's a machloket about that. So you wash, yes, but don't make a blessing on that, because also there's a doubt. So let's see the Bet Yosef, what he says here. The Perek Arbe Psachim, right? In this Perek Kuftet Vav Amud Aleph, Amar Rabbi Elazar, Kol Davar Shetivulo B'Mashkeh. So he says, right, whatever is dipped into a liquid, right, that's the way to eat it like that. You have to wash your hands. Rashi explains, so he says the reason why you got to wash your hands is because you're touching the liquid, right, and the liquid transfers the impurity, right, from your hands. Right, so it says, right, whatever disqualifies the truma makes the liquid into first degree impurity. That's what it says in Rabbeinu Yonah, right? This is, by the way, the Rabbeinu Yonah who wrote the Sharai Tshuva, the same guy. Right? You guys are into this book now, right? You're into that. So you should know it's the same guy. Okay. Where was he from, by the way, Rabbeinu Yonah?
Gerona, no? Spain or something.
Right, Spain. Yeah, he was a Spanish guy. Yeah. Rabbeinu Yonah was Spanish. Absolutely. And there's a whole story about that, by the way. He had a big dispute with the Rambam. So he started like bad mouthing the Rambam. Apparently, there's a story about. You ever hear about this story?
Yes.
You heard about? Okay.
Yes. That's why he wrote the Sharet Teshuva, no? As a result of.
Yeah, could be. I'm not sure about that, but probably you heard that, whatever. But anyway, right? So the story goes, right, that he was defaming the Rambam, saying all kinds of lashon hara about him, So apparently, right, it wasn't true, the stuff he was saying, it was some kind of rumor that was going around, So he wasn't careful, to examine, if it was true or not, whatever. So, right, what happened was, that apparently the Rambam and him were alive at the same time, but the Rambam was older. So what happened was that the Rambam passed away, and Rabbeinu Yonah was still alive. And then, when the Rambam passed away, he realized that he made a mistake, Rabbeinu Yonah. So he came to the grave of the Rambam, to apologize to him. Apparently, that's what they say. He couldn't apologize in person, so he had to go to the grave. Okay, that's a story about Rabbeinu Yonah. One of the big Chachamim, one of the big Rishonim, Rabbeinu Yonah. Yeah. Okay, very good. So that's the story there. So what do we learn from that? Don't talk right about rabbis unless you know what you're talking about. If you heard some rumors, don't open your mouth. Right? Otherwise, you're gonna have to go to the grave and apologize. That's what's gonna be. Right? So better off, not saying nothing, right? If you're not sure, Right? So what do you call it? That's what the Chafetz Chaim says, right, in his book. Chafetz Chaim. He says there that when it comes to lashon hara, if you're not sure, if it's true, whatever, or whatever, something like that, he says you should not say it. If you're not sure, not that you're not sure that it's true, you're not sure if it's allowed to say it. If you're not sure, he says, right, when in doubt, throw it out, as we said, right? Don't say nothing. Same thing, it's a blessing in vain, right? That's what I'm talking about. The same thing is here, right? So you got to watch out for that. So if you're not sure, it's allowed to say that thing, don't say, better not. First, ask a rabbi, am I allowed to say this? Right? If you're not, watch out. You're gonna have to have some apologizing to do. Maybe you're gonna have to write a new book, right? Like Rabbeinu Yonah, right? Okay.
It will be the size of an encyclopedia. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. Okay, so you gotta be careful. There's also other stories, by the way, that came later on. When rabbis had feuds, one rabbi with the other, and it was like lashon hara, it was lies, So you gotta watch out with that. Sometimes people get into fights, and the reason why, like two rabbis, get into a big fight, it's because of lashon hara. Somebody spoke lashon hara, and one of the rabbis believed it, and it wasn't true, and because of that, they got into a fight. This is a very big problem. You got to watch out for that. It's very, very, very dangerous. Very dangerous. You get into danger there. Same thing happened, like 300 years ago between Rabbi Yaakov Emdin and there was this other rabbi, right, who was I have to remember his name. Anyway, right, Rabbi Yonatan Ivishitz, right. These were two rabbis, in Europe. They were like in the area of Germany, right, and Holland, right over there in that area they lived. Amsterdam, right, over there. And so they also got into a big brawl. Yeah, and it was all because of lashon hara. Because somebody told lashon hara, some people, to one of the rabbis, and he believed it. Because of that, he got into a whole feud. You gotta watch out with that stuff. Okay, so yeah, good piece of musar. Okay, so let's go on, right? So it says Rabbeinu Yonah, shkatav beperek elu dvarim, right? He writes over there, Perush ikar netilat yadayim utkena ala pat. So he says the main point of netilat yadayim is for bread. That's the main purpose, right? But as we said, right, there's also another thing. So what does that mean? You're holding the bread in your hands. He says, right? So he says it's because of truma, right? That you can make up to eat truma without washing. That's the reason why they decreed that. So he says most of the truma is bread. Interesting. But it says when it comes to fruit, you don't need to wash your hands, okay? And by the way, that applies also, as we said, even if the fruit is wet, doesn't matter. You don't need to wash your hands for fruit. If anybody tells you that, tell him, read the Shulchan Aruch carefully. You're not reading it carefully. You're making a mistake. Okay, so that's the story there. So it goes on. She'en trumot min Torah. Right, so it's because the truma of the, look what he says, right? The truma of fruits is not from the Torah; it's only rabbinical. So the rabbis did not decree on that. Ela anavim, except grapes, he says, right? Achar she'asa mehem yain, when he made wine from them. Ve'azetim achar she'asu shemen. Also, if you made oil, right, from olives, same thing there. So those are the only ones that are from the Torah. The rest of them, the fruits are from the rabbis. Okay, good. שלא מצינו תרומה מן התורה, אלא בראשית דגנך ותירושך ויצהרך. So it says we only have truma for these things, right? What is דגנך? Bread. תירושך, right? That's wine. תיצהרך, that's oil, right? Olive oil. That's all we got. אבל המשקים כיוון שאינם נאחזים בידיים, but he says when it comes to, right, שאדם שותה אותם על ידי הכלי, but he says, when it comes to drinks, he says, right? Since you don't touch it with your hands. Why? Because you're holding it with a cup, right? You don't touch the drink. So, right, so therefore, you don't really need to wash for them, right? That's the thing. אלא מפני שהמשקים עלולים יותר שמקבלים טומאה מהידיים שהן שניות, כמו שתרומה בנעשית ראשונה לטמא דברים אחרים כדאמרינן. But he says, the rabbis decreed on that. Why is that? Because the drinks, right, the liquids are more prone to take tuma from the hands, which are secondary impurity, like truma, right? And then therefore becomes a first degree impurity. To make some other things impure, to disqualify other things. Like we said in Para, right? In Mishnah Para, kol aposel et truma, whoever disqualifies the truma, right? He makes the liquids into first degree. So it says, therefore they were stringent about these things. Right, and they required for everything, which is dipped into a liquid, right? So in other words, whatever is the way to dip into a liquid, that's the reason why you got to wash. It's a whole big explanation he brings over here, right? Why that has to be done. Interesting, nice. Okay, that's Rabbi Yonah. So good, let's go on. והתוספות כתבו שאין נראה לפרש כן. But Tosfot says it doesn't seem right to explain like that. He says, ונראה דנטילת דאחה לאו משום קדושה ונקיות. So he says it's not because of, it seems like it's not because of holiness or cleanliness, כמו שבנאמר, like when it comes to bread, אלא משום שלא יטמא המשכין להיות תחילה. We're concerned that he shouldn't disqualify the liquid to become a first degree. Right? So it's going to be forbidden to drink it. Right, and it's going to disqualify his body. So it's therefore, according to this, it seems like we shouldn't bless on those things. Because there's no mitzvah here, right? So that's exactly what we said, right? Before. We said that there's a machloket about liquids, right? Things which are dipped into liquids, right? So this is the machloket, right? You see. According to Rabbeinu Yonah, you would need to wash for those things, and you need to bless also. But according to Tosfot, you don't need to wash, right? So therefore, right, you're not going to bless, even if you do wash. Okay. So it says, because there is no mitzvah here to listen to this rabbi. So it's also, it's in hard times, we're not really careful about, impurity, right? We're not careful about these things. We don't observe it, today. There's no way for us to observe it. So to eat impure foods. So we don't really need that washing, that's the thing. So look what it says, right? Therefore, if you bless this, he says, Tosfot says it's a blessing in vain. Why is that? Because you don't need it today. So we see some machloket, right? Rabbeinu Yonah, Tosfot. That's why we don't make the blessing for things like that. בכל הסתרים כתוב שצריך לברך על נטילה בין נראה appreciate like it says, but it says all the books it says, all right, in the prayer book it says you have to bless on that, right? But it says it doesn't seem right, you know? Yeah, so that's the way it is, right? By the way, what do you see from here, right? Good lesson. Which is that don't always believe everything which is written in a Sidur, you know? Sidur is not Shulchan Aruch, you know what I mean? So sometimes there are things which are written there which we don't go like that. So don't think some Sidur is, like some kind of, Torah from Mount Sinai, right? Let me look like that. There are mistakes also in the Sidur. All kinds of things, right? So you got to watch out, take it with a grain of salt, right? Okay. That's why, I always tell people, if you're buying a Sidur, good idea to buy one with an approbation, You know what's approbation?
Yes, it is approved by several
Right.
rabbis.
It means it's like some important rabbi, knowledgeable rabbi approved it. So that's a very good, very important thing, because otherwise God knows, who wrote the Sidur, if he knows halakha, he doesn't know halakha, doesn't know what he's talking about. Not everybody who writes a Sidur is a big rabbi, could be just a regular guy, decide to write a siddur, whatever. He could be. I don't mean to say he knows nothing. He knows something, but he's not a big chacham. He wrote a siddur. Okay, doesn't mean that he's a gadol in Torah. That's why siddur should have approbation from some big chacham. Some gadol, right? Not one of those internet rabbis. Right? Those guys. I'm not going to mention their names, right? Not those guys. I'm talking about real rabbis. Real, right? real chachamim. Okay. All right, very
Rabbi,
good.
what about the rabbi that was teaching Madonna? Is he qualified?
No comment on that one. No comment.
Oh my word.
Okay.
I wondered that same question many times.
Oh, wow. Okay, there you go. Well, now we have two people who have the same question.
Let's call Madonna and ask her.
All right, give her a call.
Yeah.
Let us know what she says. Just don't put her on the video. We can't watch her.
It might be an artificial intelligence. Now,
You never know. Today, you never know.
those AIs and voice
It's so
clones.
true. That's so true. By the way, that proves, what the Chazal, what the rabbi said, the Big Chachamim, they said that all these things, are not evidence, in a court of law, in a Jewish court, like videos or even audios. You can't prove anything, with these things in Jewish court. It means nothing. The only thing that proves anything in a Jewish court is witnesses, kosher witnesses. Otherwise, forget about it. Right?
I didn't know the Jewish court would be suspicious about CGI.
What's CGI?
CGI is, what they use in the movies for the past
I see.
30 years.
Right.
To
So
make...
anyway, right, that's the thing, in Jewish law, we don't accept any of these things. In other words, basically, right, the rule is we don't accept circumstantial evidence in Jewish law.
Oh, the green screen. Is that what you mean, David? Yeah, the green screen, AIs, and voice clones now.
Okay. All right. All that good stuff, right? All that good stuff.
So if you put a spy video in a bedroom, well, you could put it anywhere. I mean,
right.
And you catch a spouse on video,
right? Cheating, yeah,
committing adultery.
Yeah,
and you take it to.
We're not gonna execute him because of a video. If that's what you're saying, right? You know what I mean?
No, I mean,
It could be fake. It could be actually fake.
Right, it could be doctored. Yeah, they can doctor that today. Absolutely. Today they can do it very easily.
Well, they couldn't do it just a couple of decades ago. Was it accepted then? I mean,
well, it is what it is. What can I tell you? It is what it is. But anyway,
Mhm.
you see, right, the wisdom of the Jewish law, we don't accept these things because these things are not real testimony. They're not real evidence. That's the bottom line. Whether it's DNA, right, or all kinds of stuff like that, right? God knows, whatever. We don't accept any of that in Jewish law. Nothing. Only testimony. That's it.
So basically, what you're saying is that they won't accept technology, foolproof
No, it's not a
technology.
matter of technology. It's just, technology is good to use for useful things, but it's not good for evidence.
Well, I mean, there have been millions of people freed, innocent people, because of DNA evidence, or prevented from going to jail.
There's also, many people who have been jailed, and because of false evidence, circumstantial evidence, which was later proven to be false. So you got to watch out with that, it's not a good thing. But the truth is, I have to tell you one thing for sure, that even though we don't accept it in our courts, like for in a Jewish court, we don't accept those things. But the goyim, they're allowed to make their own system, So if they want to accept those things, they could. If that's their system, they could accept it. But I think that, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, whatever. When it comes to death penalty, you cannot do death penalty in Judaism. Whether it's a goy or a Jew, with circumstantial evidence. It has to be testimony. Okay, whatever. It's a whole discussion, right? I'm not going to get to that now, but that's the way it works. So that's the Jewish system. So anyway, right? Let's get back to where we were. וכן כתב מוריכי, right? Says מוריכי, בשם הרשב"ם, name הרשב"ם, וגם רבנו כתב בסימן תע"ג שהר"ם מרוטנברג כתב דהידנא אין צריך נטילת דבר שטבעו במשקה. He also says this, right? That like the Tosfot, Rami Rothenberg, that nowadays you don't really need to wash for things which are dipped into liquids, right? Things like this. Right? So therefore he wouldn't bless on it, like we said, right? Same thing. So Tivul Rishon, right? The first dipping. So what does that mean? The first dipping, and we're talking about on Passover, right? On the Haggadah there for the karpas. He wouldn't bless on it, right? That's what we do also. We don't bless, right? We wash our hands and we don't bless for karpas. So right, as you see, right, same thing. The Chikatel Bali Tur. That's what it says on Bali Tur. Rabbeinu Katab Sham, right? But Rabbeinu says there the lo nehera. Oh, so right, so the Tur says he doesn't agree with it. So here also it seems to be the same thing, right? It doesn't differentiate. The pot. It doesn't differentiate between bread and something which is dipped into liquids. Also Mordechai says that his rabbis also argue with this ruling. They do require a blessing, right? So big machloket, right? With this regarding this, whether it requires a blessing or not. Also the Rosh, right? Why? Because the liquid is very prone to receive the impurity. Okay. So therefore they require to wash for something that was dipped into a liquid. Right? Because of the truma, as we said. Rashi, like Rashi, also Rambam seems to go like that as well. When laws of blessings, right? So Rambam seems to say that we do bless, right? Even though we don't do it, but he holds it, you should. Like bread. So there's a lot of rabbis who go that way, but we don't go that way, right? Practically speaking. Says Rabbeinu Yerucham, Yesh mefarshim that which we require, the washing for the something which is dipped into a liquid. Yesh do kol din netilat yadayim. It's in every way aspect. It's like washing your hands. And you should bless on them, he says. So therefore it's like, any washing. Some say it's because of cleanliness only. We don't bless on that. שלא תקנו נטילת אלא בפת. They only really decreed, right, to wash hands because of bread. וכן הנה עיקר, that's what it seems he says the main, right, the main ruling. Okay, ואין להם דין מים ראשונים. So it doesn't have the rule of like, the first washing on the bread. עד כאן let's see on the bread. וכיוון שיש חולקים בדבר, look what it says in Bet Yosef, right, bottom line. So since there's a machloket here about this, right, we have both sides, lots of rabbis on both sides here, right, יש לחוש ולברך, so therefore he says don't bless, right, when in doubt, throw it out, as we said, right. וגם רבנו כתב בסימן תע"ג, also the Torah says, in this chapter, right, which is 473, והרוצה לצאת ידי ספקה, יביא עצמו לידי חיוב, right? So, look what it says, interesting, right? So it says, if you want to really like, be on the safe side, to get rid of any doubt, so it says, therefore, bring yourself to a state where you have to wash your hands. From some other vantage point. For instance, he says, let him go to the bathroom, right, and then rub his hands. עד כאן, אותו תיקון הוא על פי דת הסוברים, as a bit Yosef points out, right, that this is only according to the ones who hold, שאחר נטילת צרכיו, צריך לברך על נטילת ידיים. That they hold, when you go use a bathroom, you have to say also נטילת ידיים. We don't do that. אבל לדידן, but it says, by us, זה אינו מברך על נטילת ידיים, you don't bless נטילת ידיים, כמו שכתבתי בסימן זין, like we wrote in chapter 7, we already covered that already a while ago. So therefore you cannot do that. This method, right? So therefore it says, right, bottom line, right? If you're washing on something, which is, the way to dip into a liquid, we do not bless on that. Simple as that. Okay, we're almost done. So let's finish it off. So it says, right, so it says, even the ones who say that, you have to wash for this, it's only when it's still the liquid is, it's still moist, that food. But if it got already dried out, right, it doesn't need it anymore. So it seems that kolbo pashutu, so that's obvious. If it's dry, it's dry, right? That's it. The liquid is gone. Okay, פרק ערב פסחים, it says in ערב פסחים, קופתד ו' עמוד ב', על had ימינן, כל דבר שטבעו במשקה, so it said, right, whatever we said, that whatever is dipped into a liquid, צריך נטילת ידיים, you need there to wash your hands, אמר פאפה שמע מינה, חסה, צריך לשקוע, right, כלומר, בחרוסת, so this rabbi says, right, you learn from this, that, when it comes to lettuce, right, romaine lettuce that we use for maror, so you have to, right, the shkue, right? What that means, you have to dip it in. Klomar becharoset, you got to dip it into charoset. Mishum, why? Kafa the isal kadatech lo tzarich lishkue netilat yadayim. Lama li v'dilma leolam emalach lo tzarich lishkue ubekafa merecha might. אלא למה לי נטילת ידיים? דילמה משקעו עולה ונראה שיש ללמוד מכאן אף על פי שאינו מטבל אלא ראש הירק או הפרי שנמצא שאין המשקה נוגע כלל בידיים, עם כל זה צריך נטילת ידיים. So what is he saying over here, right? That it seems like even if you dip something, right, into liquid, it's the way to dip it in. So he said that even though your hands are not touching the liquid because it's on the other end of the food, you still have to wash your hands anyway. Okay, good point. So that we're done. So we'll do Shulchan Aruch and we'll stop there, I guess. So that was Daled. Let's go to Shulchan Aruch. Says Shulchan Aruch like this: Im ochel davar shetibulo be'echad b'shiva mashkin simanam. Right. So it's if you're eating something, right, which is dipped into a liquid. In other words, it's the way to dip it like that. That's the way they eat it. That's what it means. Right. So which liquids are we talking about, right? So he says, right, the acronym is Yad Shachat Dam, right? So what are these? Right, liquids. First of all, right, Yud is yain, right, wine. Dalet is dvash, right, honey. But we're talking about date honey. Shemen, right, is what? What kind of, it's oil, right? What kind of oil? Olive oil. Chalab is milk, right? Tal is dew. Dam, blood, right? Mayim is water. Those are the ones that we're talking about. Those liquids. Velot nagev, and it wasn't dried, the fruit, the food. Even if his hands are not touching the place where the liquid is, so you have to wash, but it was said, right? No blessing. There's a doubt. Throw it out. Don't bless. Right? Okay, so it says Ramah here. Even if you're only dipping just the head of it, right? Just the end of it, right? Whatever. You still have to, right, wash your hands without a blessing. So that's the way it's done. Okay, very good. I guess we'll stop here, Bezat Hashem. Thanks for coming. Be blessed with wealth and health and happiness. Laila Tov, Chazak Baruch. We'll see you tomorrow, Bezat Hashem.
Kavod Harav, thank you so much.
God bless.
Thank you.
All
All the best.